coming to you from Tampa, Florida. This is GovLove, a podcast about local government brought to you by engaging local government leaders. I'm Ben Kittelson. I'm a manager at Reftelis and GovLove co-host, and we have a great episode for you today. We're recording this episode live from the 2025 ICMA Conference, and we're talking to a longtime friend of the pod and discuss building and all the fun stuff that comes with development here in the state of Florida. But first, the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. Engaging Local Government Leaders is a professional association engaging the brightest minds in local government. And somehow we are celebrating 10 years of local government stories on the GovLove podcast. So we are opening up the hotline, our GovLove hotline, for our listeners to give us a call and tell us what you think local government will be like in another 10 years and tell us about some of the trends that you've seen over the last 10 years that your organizations are dealing with. You can call 720-282-1752 and leave us a message that'll appear on a future episode. But now, let me introduce today's guest. J.C. Hudgison is the Chief Building Official and Construction Services Center Manager for the City of Tampa, Florida, a position he's been in since April 2020. Prior to joining Tampa, J.C. worked for Columbus Consolidated Government in Georgia for 10 years and most recently as the Building Inspections and Code Enforcement Director. And when we talked to J.C. last was right after he took this role during the pandemic. So we're excited to have you back, and thank you so much for taking the time.
No problem. Glad to be here.
Well, as you know, we start GovLove with a lightning round to get to know our guests a little better and let you get a little warmed up for our conversation. So my first question for you, what was the first concert that you went to?
Ooh, my first concert probably college, so that'd be Kanye West college dropout tour. Yeah. Went through Knoxville, so that was probably my first concert. High school didn't really go to much, but college it would have been Kanye West college dropout tour.
That's a great first. Yeah, can't endorse the later stuff, but
that's right. Early, then it was the wheelhouse. I was like, this is great. Know these songs. Yes,
that's awesome. Very cool. All right, and then what book are you currently reading?
So currently I'm actually reading, was given to my chief of staff, suggested The Starfish and the Spider. It's talking about leaderless organizations. So kind of apropos to me and being, hey, I'm in the office, or if I'm not in the office, or I'm at an event, or I'm in the job site, it's like, hey, how can my staff be self-sustaining? They understand that, hey, I'm not there. Okay, well, this is what JC would do, or this is, kind of knowing me enough to know that, hey, this is how he would operate. Or if I'm at a conference like we are today, it's like my phone is not buzzing all day because my staff knows, okay, hey, this is what to do. So this book kind of gives you a few tips and tricks of kind of how to understand that and, organizations and how they adapt.
Very cool. And for our listeners, he has it physically next to him at the table. He pulled it out when I told him that I was going to ask him about that. All right. Then my last lightning round question for you. Where do you go for inspiration?
Honestly, inspiration is home. It's the wife and kids. And it's, I'll talk about all this stuff. And unfortunately, they're a bit more building code slanted now because they lived with me for this long and I've been married for 13 years. So I go to my wife and my kids and, I kind of, hey, this is going on, or we'll be driving by a project and I'll start talking about it and they'll kind of, man, that's cool. Or, hey, Dad, what are you going to put in that building? And it's kind of that kind of refreshing part. They're like, okay, well, that's going to be a new hotel, or that's going to be a mixed-use development. Ooh, we don't really talk about the Rays stuff, so we don't know yet. But say, hey, improvements to Raymond James or Steinbrenner Field when the Rays, those kind of permits and that kind of stuff. So that's very inspiring because they come and they ask all those questions. It's not like a contractor developer, hey, I need this done. Yeah. It's like, no, my kids and my wife are like, they're asking like legitimate questions. What is this going to do? And how's this going to affect this? And then even going back to my Columbus days, they're going to widen the road and all this. I'm like, I'm just a building guy now. I used to do all that before, but
don't ask me about traffic.
That's right. So it's just that's my source of inspiration.
That's cool. How have they adjusted to, because I think when we talked last, it was during the pandemic, so it was quite the transition.
Yes.
But like, how have they?
So I joke with them. I joke that all of my kids, like my kids have upgraded, my wife has upgraded, and I just came to be the building official. Like I did the same thing. You guys are all flourishing. My son had an opportunity to play for the state soccer team and actually went to Austria.
Cool.
So we were in Austria last summer playing soccer. My youngest son is playing soccer as well and just made his elementary team. And so my wife is moving up through her company. So it's like everyone, like they got here kicking and screaming. Yeah. In 5 years, if I told them we were going somewhere else, they'd be really ready to fight. Yeah. So they've definitely transitioned very well, and I think the blessing in disguise is that we were able to all move together.
Yeah.
Before initially, I would have probably taken the job, and then they would have maybe come that summer. And how would I figure that half a year traveling back and forth? But because of the pandemic, we were able to all move together.
Yeah.
So we kind of got to stay as a family and kind of bond even more because it was just
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we had a few family friends, a few people, neighborhood friends we made, but we were able to kind of travel together. So that probably made it a lot better transition as well.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, being in a unit in that, and yeah, moving that time would be so hard to like make community. So it's good to hear that
That's right.
y'all were able to do that. Well, cool. Well, I'm excited to talk more about what's been going on in Tampa. It's been fun to kind of explore the city a bit this week, and but this is also I warned you a part of a series I'm doing where I'm kind of talking to guests from the last 10 years and reflecting a little bit on 10 years of GovLove and talking to some of our favorite people, but also talking about trends. And so, local government somehow has changed a lot in 10 years. Again, I don't know how GovLove has been going on this long. It makes me feel quite old, but I'm just curious, to get your perspective on what are some of the biggest changes you've seen, some of the trends that you've seen in the organizations you've worked in and impacting kind of, local government and particularly your area.
So specifically for building codes, we adopt a new set of codes every 3 years.
Yeah.
So ideally new technologies, new ideas, whether it's on the energy code side, we've, occupied roofs and single exit stairs, like some of those things that we're dealing with that, kind of breaches outside of the building code and kind of touches the fire code and trying to make sure all of that is congruent. That's usually for us, that's the norm. So every 3 years, we're kind of used to something new or something coming across that we just have to adjust to. I think staff-wise, it's really just been that generational shift. And so I have a lot of my staff that I've either got them at the very end of the spectrum or at the very beginning. They're just coming in. They're either, we just celebrated 2 of my staff members of, 41 years of service, 42 years of service, 38 years of service. And then I got staff coming in, 1 year, 2 years. So it's bringing that newer generation in, and, you're losing that older generation, a lot of that institutional knowledge, and, just generations. People don't stay in jobs, for a long, long time. So that has probably been a bigger change than I thought. Yeah. Because as we were going through, we're like, oh, so-and-so's retiring, all right, well, what were the major projects that person worked on? Yeah. We have to make sure that transfers, whether we got projects at Tampa General Hospital across the street, across the bay, or if we have, any other projects that are going on, it's like, hey, I need to make sure that I get that older plan reviewer with that newer plan reviewer, or that older inspector with that new inspector, because they're going to be taking over those jobs and carrying those jobs through. And so that has been definitely one of the bigger challenges, HR-wise, that I didn't really think about. It's like, as we're going through, it's like, man, ooh, and then I started to look, people get into the drop plan and all of that. And I'm like, well, that means I have a lot of people that have been here a long time that you can even qualify for the drop. So that means, 30 years of service plus and all that. So it's like, okay, so I got to put that group together with my newbies and making sure
oh my God,
we're not losing any of that knowledge as they retire. So that has probably been one of the bigger transitions. And then, lately, the AI craze, as if that's the magic wand to fix everything. But, for us trying to figure out how to incorporate that in the building and in construction to be efficient. Like I said, there's no magic wand to it, but just understanding this is how we could do it, or this is how AI could assist us. We handle 27,000 permits a year. So if staff can, if the system can help pre-screen some of those and say, hey, this is good, bad, or indifferent, then, staff is just intervening to say, okay, pass that through, or, oh, no, send it back to the owner. It didn't sit in a queue. It's not sitting there waiting for somebody to evaluate it. It's been evaluated. So potentially, how can we leverage some of those tools, large language models and that kind of stuff? So lately, that's probably been the more of the trend, is how can we incorporate AI into our local government?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk more about that. But your point around the 40 that generation that's kind of retiring and capturing all that institutional knowledge, that is such a challenge. And Tampa's not the only place dealing with that, but I can't imagine, especially in your kind of department, your kind of work that your staff do in a place that's grown like Tampa has, the things that are living in their heads around what that project was like over there, or what that redevelopment was like, and the things that you might need to write down, or have them just download into someone else's brain.
We have one of our our arborists, like I just said, she just celebrated 41 years with the city. And so if we look at a project in the future, and she was the one that was on the site that said, hey, these trees need to go, these need to stay. I went to city council to testify for or against this. And I'm like, when she goes, where,
who do I ask?
Who's gonna know that? And so trying to start, and we've done a pretty good job. As some of those longer tenured staff, we try to kind of start to get some logs on these projects and say, hey, how did we get here? Because the project may develop in the next 2, 5, 10 years, or it may be a part of a master plan, and we may not be there yet, but that person was initially involved in that, and we have to make sure we keep those. So we've done a better job of recording. Not like, great.
How have you approached that? Like writing those things down that live in people's heads?
With her personally, we just said, hey, like, I need you to start, logging this stuff, and we have our permitting system, and so we try to kind of keep notes in there, but ideally outside of that on our shared servers to say, hey, I need you to put all this in one box, and not
so that someone can find it,
so someone can get to it at one day. And so and we've also done a good job now is going back to our SOPs and trying to update those and saying, hey, okay, this is how we do this, so in the future anybody picks that up knows exactly how to do it. That's really what's been a bigger challenge, because once again, institutional knowledge. Well, this is what we do. We do da. I'm like, that's great. But somebody walking in the door may not know that process, and we need to get
or a
those.
different inspector might be like, do we do it that way?
Correct.
Well, so you mentioned AI and like technology. How is that how are you guys approaching that? Because you're right that there's some opportunity there, but also there's risk for an organization. And so, how are you guys
So we're in the stages of potentially getting some plan review check software, and the intent is for we have certain standards. We're in the 8th edition of the Florida Building Code. Our size of our documents need to be a certain size. You need to know your construction type. Is it in a flood process or not? Like, those are very, yes or no answer situations. So that's something the system potentially could check. The system would say, hey,
basic,
make sure.
Checklist stuff.
Correct. So for us, we've been approaching it to look at more of what's called the prescriptive code. There's a specific dimension in there. Don't go beyond that dimension or you're non-compliant. So for the system to be able to check, okay, well, dead-end corridor can't be longer than 50 feet. Well, if he shows a corridor that's 51 feet, we got a problem. So the system could potentially do that. Performance-based, calculating how many air changes. No, it's not going to be able to do that. But at least a prescriptive to come through, and we're getting massive projects. Like, you've seen all the cranes around. We're getting projects 300 pages. Like, I want to make sure my staff is not getting burnt out as they're going through those 300 pages. They're taking phone calls, emails, other meetings. And so at least we want to have that baseline floor for the system, the AI, to do the check based off of these basic requirements. And say at least we can say for sure every project has at least been checked across that base, the base Florida Building Code minimum. So we're hoping, hopefully sometime early next year, to have some type of at least working prototype. It would probably be internal first. It wouldn't be, people like, hey, can I just self-serve my plans? You tell me what's wrong? We're not there yet. Not there yet. But at least saying, hey, let's staff will look at it based off of the AI check, and the staff will then make determinations. But once again, that 300-sheet project, they don't have to go through 300 sheets. They can see kind of where those.
Focus in on the 10 that really matter.
There you go. So the thought is, it's just saving time, because it's still a manual process. We have to go through each sheet, make sure the related records are correct, make sure the sections relate to that section. Oh, what does that elevation look like? Does it meet zoning requirements? So all of those pieces we still have to do, but the system could at least take some of those low-hanging fruit off of the plate and just say, hey, those are non-compliant. So when they get that plan review back, they know, okay, well, these are the things we need to fix. So we're hoping that will, like I said, our thing is just efficiency. We just want to be as efficient as we can with the staff we have. And as these projects are getting bigger and bigger and more complex, we want to be able to have something to say, we're being consistent. Oh, well, you didn't cite us for this on these projects, but you did on this one. Well, staff, either, human error, just somebody looked at it differently, code may have changed, who knows. But at least I can say, hey, we've got a backbone with the AI check system to just read it all and give us a more consistent product.
So I'm curious, how is your staff reacting to that?
So I had a few to come in and was like, what is this? And then I said, no, and as I started to do a deep dive into it, we call it human in the loop AI. So it's not just AI and it just shoots an answer out. It is the AI will give you a report, and then I still need a human, a plan reviewer, to go in and check.
Someone with the expertise.
That's correct. To say, is this a legitimate comment? Yes. Is this a legitimate comment? No. Is it? And so their discretion is still based off of what they know and their knowledge. So we're not replacing people. We're not. So we call it human in the loop AI. So they still interact with it, but the AI is doing the lifting up front. And then they give us a report. Then staff then can determine that report. Ooh, I don't know if that's right. Let's go back to that page and look. as opposed to just the answer, you're feeding it to the system and the system automatically rejects it and no one has touched it. I'm not that comfortable with it yet. I would still like
and I think that's a good perspective to have, that because then it's a tool for your staff. That's correct. It's not just this magic wand thing.
Correct. That just fix, plan approved. No.
Yeah. Then it becomes like an Excel template or something.
Correct. That's right.
They're just using to make their job a little easier.
Correct.
And maybe a little more consistent for some of your customers.
And at least the most things I've heard since I've been here is from the architects and the contractors is just consistency. Yeah. They just want us to be consistent. They were like, I've built 25 houses here, and then on the 26, you guys are hitting me for an egress window size. It's the same and window. It could be a legitimate reason, and they could have legitimately, I hate to say we may have missed it or overlooked it on the other projects, or that may not have been a bedroom window at that time, and now you repositioned your floor plan, and now that is a bedroom window. Okay, now you have to meet the egress. So sometimes it's like, well, it's a bit of give and take, or orientation, X, Y, and Z. And so it's like they were like, We'll take it if you say it's wrong, but just say it's wrong all the time. Don't say it's wrong here, but not say it's wrong there. And so, it's just coming to human error. We have, I have 14 plan reviewers. Yeah. They're all looking at different things. We have engineers, I have architects, so they're specialized in certain things. So certain things are going to catch their eye that they may not catch another plan reviewer's eye. But that's why we're hoping that gap will get fixed by the AI. The AI will look at it all regardless of what comes in and try to give a better consistent product.
Yeah, that's good. No, it's funny. We do a fair amount of work with development and building kind of operations, and that is the thing you hear when you talk with customers. Like we want to know the process to be consistent, and we want it to be clear.
That's right. Tell me what I need to do. That's fine. We just want to say every time I submit a project, it's the same thing. And we try to explain it to the staff is, we're like McDonald's or a Burger King. It's like you're coming for a burger. You're not coming for not a house. You're coming for a structure. You're coming for a building. But, okay, they may not want any pickles or cut in half or add cheese or whatever it is. But it's still a burger. Yeah. So ideally, the base should still be the same. We should be giving them a consistent product every time. And so we've been working at least since I've been here over the last 5.5 years as to how to do that and how to make that better.
Yeah. I wanted to ask about some of the process improvement and standardization work. So when you walk in and you're like, you got to get your handle on this organization, all these processes, that's one aspect. And then how do you start picking what are the things that we're going to make improvements on and try to work on as you're over the last 5 years, I guess?
So when I first got here, I did kind of we had a transition team from the mayor's office, and then I also had some local shareholders. So whether it was TBBA, which is the local builders association, whether it was AIA Florida, AIA Tampa Bay, because those are the architects, and it's like, hey, what are we missing the boat on? I'm the new guy, so listen, I'm not ingrained and just going to defend everything and say we're perfect and you guys don't know what you're doing. Yeah. It's like, please.
And as the new guy, you get the freedom to change stuff.
Correct.
Too.
I said, come on, let me know what's going on. And so that's where we heard a lot of the inconsistency from the builder side, and then we heard on the architect side, inconsistency in code interpretations and things like that. And so when we started looking at those, on the inconsistency on the permitting side, we tried to condense as much as we can. We started creating what's called a sufficiency checklist. I said, if you don't meet this checklist, you don't even get in the door. Okay. You got to give me we'd have some projects, didn't give me a site plan.
Yeah, we just got to say site plan. It's like, we need a site plan.
I need a site. So we started consistency, the checklist for both residential and commercial. Once again, we also saw there was concerns with the whole process. So ideally, I used to only look at within the building's four walls. But if it was on private property, you would have to go out to another department. And so I was like, we want to keep this as streamlined as we can. So we hired, I transitioned 3 of my plan reviewers into what we call site engineers. So their job is to look at all the site stuff. So then they're looking at the stormwater, they're looking at the, we have our arborists, which look at the trees. So I brought them into the fold. So I kind of folded them in along with the site engineer. So literally, as soon as you cross on the private property, you submit a permit to us, we can do it all.
Okay.
So it's not having to go to another department.
You're having to run around the city.
Correct. You get one BOD and you get the full permitting process. We work with zoning. Zoning's right down the hall from us, and historic is right down the hall from them. So we're all in the same building. We even for on the commercial side, we have fire. Fire is also in the building with us, so we can once again walk right down the hall. So those built-in efficiencies really help us do very well. As we've kind of seen some of the holes, we have our general permitting system, which handles all of our permits. Yeah. And then we kind of knew there were some places we needed for improvement there. Yeah. So we went to the e-permit hub, which is kind of that's our permit reading. Yeah. So digitizing the plans, everything comes up. On the intake side, we started using a product from Clarity to kind of take the input side and kind of get people down the wrong. We found people would just push buttons to get a permit. Oh. And they would just fill it out and just get a permit. And then, unfortunately, my inspector staff would go out there and, you said this is a roof permit, but it was a flat roof. We come out here and it's a pitched roof. Yeah. Well, that's not the right permit type. Yeah, and so now there's been no plan review, but it's out there. And now it's like, how do we fix it? Yeah. That's correct. Yeah. And so now we're having to untangle all of that. So we've kind of helped on the front end to make sure everybody's getting the right permit type. And then on the inspection side, everyone's on their phones. Yeah. Like, take advantage of that. So we have two different ways where you can either we started virtual inspections literally just last week. Yeah. So that homeowner doesn't have to sit there all day waiting for us. If we say, hey,
literally the homeowner's on like FaceTime or something.
Correct. If they set a 10 o'clock slot and there's a 10 o'clock slot available, it's not even a 20-minute inspection, but that saves my staff from driving all the way up, say, to New Tampa, which is almost a 35-minute drive for a 10-minute inspection. Yeah. Yeah. So we're being able to be a bit more efficient with that time, and as well as using our text to inspect, so you can actually text your permit inspection in. So once your permit is issued, you can text your permit inspection information. You'll get your inspections that you need. You also get your results. You can find out, okay, well, that drywall guy can't come in until the frame is approved. Yeah. But now the GC can just text and say, hey, he sees the status. Okay, now I can call my drywall guy. Cool. And so we tried to really help some of those holes where people, man, I don't want to wait all day, or why do I have to go to my computer or go find a laptop to get scheduled and inspect? We're trying to kind of bridge some of those gaps to help.
And meet your customers where they're at.
That's correct. Yeah. It's like they're in the field. They don't have a laptop. They may have a tough book. They may not. Yeah. Or the situation, especially with our permitting system, a seller or anything like that, they don't know their login. They don't know that part of it. They don't know it. Like, there's a foreman on the site. They don't know their login information for a seller.
Well, they might have 4 logins.
Correct. Yeah. And so it's like, well, use your phone. You can text to inspect. You can schedule your inspection. Done. And it relays back to our permitting system, schedules the inspection, and you move on. Okay,
so not to get too wonky or in the weeds, but how does that integrate with Acela then?
So all of these outside of one is Clarity. All the rest of them have APIs. Okay. So I don't want to get super wonky there, but the API talks back to Acela.
So all the data is getting.
That's correct. So if you go back to Acela, you'll see if it passed or failed. It doesn't distinguish. Well, we do distinguish virtual. It'll tell you if it's a virtual inspection or not. But all of our other inspection results, it'll just read as if it's through Acela. Okay. So you're not losing anything there. Our plan room.
Your staff aren't having to go to 4 different
That's correct. Places. That was our biggest thing. It was like, great, I love vendors and we see all these great technologies, but we know Acela is our main permitting system. And if you don't relate back to that, it's going to be difficult. And like you said, transition to staff. Staff's like, well, I got to have 3 windows open just to do my job. Yeah. I don't want to put that on them. Like you said, it's meeting the user where they're at. The user is using the system. It relates back to Acela. Staff doesn't know the difference. Text inspection comes in. They don't know. Yeah. It's still an inspection. So. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. No, it has been fun to explore Tampa and see all the cranes and all the new development. And before we started recording, you mentioned that there's been a lot of focus on urban infill, and so I'm just curious how that's been going here and where you guys are at.
Another benefit is also our housing department is also on the same floor with us. Yeah. So once again, we just finished our urban infill phase 2, and so I think it was probably 30 to 40 lots all over the city.
And you guys had identified these as opportunities for
development.
That's
right. Yeah. And so we had new developers, green developers, not knowing anything. Okay. And we said, hey, housing would kind of pair them up with the parcel. Then they would then set a separate date to come see us. And they'd say, hey, this is the permit. We want to set a house on this lot. So I'd bring our staff in free of charge because, like I said, we wanted to kind of assist. we'd have our staff come in, and I'd have my site engineer, I'd have a plan reviewer, myself, and an arborist to look at the site.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh, got a grand tree in the back. So that grand tree, unless you want to go to city council to get it removed and public notice, let's see if we can flip that floor plan on the other side.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And so we were able to kind of give them the ideas because, we don't want them to submit plans and then they're frustrated with the process.
Yeah.
So we wanted to tell them up front, hey, can we shift that house 10 feet to the right?
Before they get too far down the line.
That's correct. You haven't drawn anything. You haven't hired an architect. But, hey, these are the pitfalls we see coming.
Oh, interesting.
And we're like, ooh, this lot's, our minimum lot is 50 feet. Ooh, this one's 48. So now our normal 5-foot setbacks, that house may be a little skip. So we're like, hey, just be aware. You've got to do this, or your rear setback here, or you've got an alley on this site. You got a rear alley. If that's how you want your entrance, there's zoning requirements, mobility requirements. So we wanted to kind of put them in a position where they knew all that going in.
Yeah.
It's not that they're just submitting a set of plans and they see 30 comments and they freak out.
Yeah.
Because these sites, unfortunately, are not necessarily, they may be a little weirdly
Sometimes
shaped.
there's a reason they're not developed.
Correct. Or, we check with stormwater to make sure it's not on our stormwater advisory list. It may be a detention area or an easement they have to observe. And they're like, well, you can't build back there.
Yeah.
And just, hey, you can develop the site, but just, that northwest corner, you might not be able to do anything with. And they can't put a pool there in the future or anything. So once again, just trying to put all that stuff in front of them before they game. That was very successful. We had a lot of permits. We had one, we got turned around in 9 days. They submitted a set of plans.
That's awesome.
We got it done in 9 days, and they had a permit. Because once they come in for affordable housing or things like that, we accelerated in our process. But because we did all that upfront work, residential house, met all the setbacks, cleared all the tree requirements, the site survey came in with everything we need, we were able to issue a permit in 9 days.
Yeah.
So I won't say that's what we happen all the time, but, we have a few success stories like that where we're able to get these around pretty quickly. But had we not had that intervention, we would have, reiterations of that permit being submitted.
Yeah. Well, and how do you balance because some of that is just brainstorming with the site owner and the developer, right? Like, well, here's what maybe your options, and you're right that you want that because that can make the process later on more efficient. But how do you balance that with the need to hey, we've got this whir of permits that we need to process. We've got this workload that we have to do.
So what we do is we focus those. We call them PPR, pre-plan reviews.
Yeah.
And so we set those up. And so usually you can have any level of documents. Okay. We don't care, if you draw it on a napkin or something, you just want to get in front of us to ask us these questions. So we do charge a fee. However, we bring everybody in the room. Mobility, water, right of way, fire, everybody. So you're able to ask to your heart's content. Tell us all those questions. And once again, to our permitting system, that's memorialized.
Yeah.
So whether that developer comes next month, 2 years from now, they at least say, hey, they met with the city. These were the city's parameters as of that time. These are the questions you asked. We told you, what edition the code is in with these amendments. Is it in flood? Is it not in flood? This is what you got to do. Yeah. And so we lay all of that out. And so the hope is that once they finally submit for a permit, like I said, whether it's 1 month or 6 months later, bam, you've got all your stuff. You at least know the minimums. Now, if you change your orientation of the building, can't help you. If it got taller or wider, where, FAA requirements, we have to, all of those things, we're hey, we want to be able to tell you before you submit. Yeah. Because there may be some precursors, whether if it's off of a state road, and now you're trying to make a new driveway or a new entrance, well, you got to get your FDOT notice of intent. You got to let them know that you're even starting that. Well, it's great to tell us, but if the state doesn't know what's going on, they've got to know, or FAA based off of building height, because the approaches to the airport are private airports, Peter O'Knight, smaller airports, so you got to be aware of those things. So for us, it's I don't want to smother you with information, but I want you to know that these are all the things we're going to be looking for. It's not going to change.
They could trip up the process, right?
That's correct. And so we're hey, you got to go get FAA and HCA, which is Hillsborough County Aviation Authority. You've got to get both of those approved.
Yeah.
What?
You're all of a sudden I don't care about that extra 2.5 feet.
Correct. You might want to drop it then and stay below, and you may be okay. But once again, we let them go back with their design team and figure that part out. And so the hope is that collaborative effort, that brainstorming, allows them to build a better product, and they bring it to us that'll be compliant.
Which allows them to break ground faster because
correct.
You're going through the plan review and permit issuance faster. Very cool. Well, awesome. And I know you're leading a walking tour of Tampa, right, this week?
I have one tomorrow for our housing. Okay. So there was from the chief of staff and working with Tampa Hope to do some homeless sheltering.
Oh, cool.
And so my tour tomorrow is to really kind of explain how we got there.
Yeah.
On the building side, how do we help? How do we give them, they gave us once again, brainstorming. They gave us a site plan, and they were like, how's this going to work? And I'm like, I don't know. So me and the fire marshal sat down.
You're like, we'll figure it out.
How many do you need? They were like, eventually we're going to have like up to, 200 to 300 like portable shelters.
Oh, like small, tiny houses.
And so we worked with a company, Pallet, to kind of come up with the idea.
Yeah.
But once again, we're in Florida, so now
Yeah.
we're worried about hurricane force
Yes.
winds and tie downs
Yes.
and all of that. So we had to make sure Florida product approval for the windows that are in the shelter.
Interesting.
And so we had to kind of like get it really in the nuts and bolts. And and as we talked to Tampa Hope about how we want to do it, the fire marshal was like, it's more or less, I call it a glorified campground. So ideally, just kind of, you got them spaced between each other. You still have a main building, which they'll see tomorrow, that just opened. They just did the groundbreaking on the main building. But that's where you go wash. That's where they, so they only use the units to sleep.
Yeah.
They don't have anything else in the unit. They don't have anywhere to eat or use the bathroom. They've got to go to the other two
dorm
buildings.
living almost.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how we tried to treat it. The electrical systems, there's a section of code because in an accessory structure, you're supposed to see the wiring. Well, if I built the conduit and put it on the surface, now I got tripping hazards.
Yeah.
So we were like, no, just run it underground right up to the space and just kind of keep them condensed in certain areas. So we were working with the code to just try to get what we needed. And so when you go out there and see it, I mean, it's awesome. And it's like, it's a great situation. It's like, hey, we knew what the goal was.
Yeah.
And normally I'll give a tip of the hat to the chief of staff, and they were like, hey, JC, can you come out here with us and look at this first?
Yeah.
And kind of start poking holes. Like, they wanted me to find stuff wrong, so then we could figure out how do we fix it.
Yeah.
Oh, how close can they be? So, depending on fire separations and all that.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, we calculated all of that. So we could make sure we were like, oh, where's the fire lane?
Yeah.
If they ever do catch fire or happen to catch fire because they are electrically wired, how do we get the trucks around? We have to make sure the turn radiuses were good. And so we worked all of that out as a part of the master plan. So each phase they were coming to drop in, I knew exactly where it was going to go. And I was like, okay, well, it's normal construction built. Okay, great. Yeah. But these modulars were a little different, and making sure the modular and the state requirements and all that. So it was very interesting. So that's why I said that's why I go, because it's we're going and we've had several tours. League of Cities came, we did one there. City of Atlanta also came about a month and a half ago as well. So it's like, they were like, oh, we're going to do it again for ICMA? They were like, yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
And it's you said Project Hope, is that the name of the?
Tampa Hope. Tampa Hope is the name of the location.
Cool. All right, we'll put a link to it so folks can check it out. That's very cool. Well, and such a valuable perspective for you to be there, like on the site of something like that. It's like, it's new. You're trying something out new.
Correct.
So like having your expertise is like, what are some of the things we got to really?
Yes, we've had.
What are the things we have to do versus like maybe we can like.
Correct. And we're like, listen, we always want people to be in safe, sustainable structures.
Yeah.
So ideally, that's the baseline of the building code. We want to make sure people are in safe, sustainable structures. And so we were able to just say, hey, this is the line, this is the minimum. And, the engineer signed off on the tie-ins to the ground to make sure they won't blow away. That was our biggest concern. We were like, hey, we wired this thing up and we get a storm. And literally we had one. Helene and Milton had a storm come in.
It's next on my list.
And then it's like, how do we make sure they're safe? They're not worried about, are these going to fly away? Because, you'll see some of the other ones out there, they literally have tents. They have to break the tents down. And it was like, well, we don't want them to do that. We want them to be able to be sheltered in place and be fine. So
yeah. Well, you brought up Milton and Helene, or Helene and Milton. It's funny, I wouldn't say a theme of the conference, but a couple of sessions have mentioned, it's been a year since those hurricanes. In this area in particular, like had some pretty heavy impacts on, and you're at the front line of then the recovery of that. So
yes.
I just, how has the recovery gone? Like, what was that like?
It was very harrowing because, everyone had told us, we hadn't got hit by a storm in however many years.
It's so funny living in Florida. Like every city says that, like, oh, we don't ever get direct hits. It's like, that can't be true.
And Helene truly wasn't a direct hit. Helene kind of came up the Gulf, but we got all the rain. Everything pushed the rain in. So that was the rain event. And then as we're starting to kind of stick our head up for that one, Milton's coming right at us.
Yeah.
And
like not even a month later.
Yeah, it's it's 10 days literally. Like it's like they were right behind each other, and we're like, what's happening? Yeah. And so for us, once again on the building side, thinking about, hey, we want people in sustainable and healthy structures. We worked with the mayor. The governor had given us a state of emergency, so we kind of had a little bit more leeway. My intent at that point was not to collect fees.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I'm not charging you a fee to get back in your house. Like, that's not that's not what we're trying to do. And then 2, I made some executive calls as a building official. If we're looking at a house and they may have gotten flood damage, I said up to 18 inches you can cut out of your house, so you're not sitting there waiting for somebody to come. That's something if you and your neighbors, y'all got a saw and y'all want to come through and get some of that muck out of your house, I'm not coming to make you get a permit for that. And so we want you to get that stuff out of your house. Then you can get that contractor, because the contractors in high demand. Even if you call the contractor, he wouldn't come in next week. You were months out. So imagine that person sitting with that soppy dry wood and that water, and it's wicking all the way up. Now they've got even more to replace.
There's more.
And so we were like, we can't. We said we'll cut about 18 inches and below. You're fine. Any cabinetry doesn't need a permit anyway. Flooring doesn't need a permit anyway. So if you're just pulling that out, get it out to your house, get it aside the street, fine. Not a big deal. The second thing we did was called pop-up permit centers. So the 3 areas that got hit the most, we co-located with Tampa Police Department. They had a trailer. They'd be on one side for the police stuff. We'd be on the other side kind of giving advice. So it was a little... We kind of had to come outside of the trailers at first to kind of tell people, hey, we're in here. You're like not walking up to the police trailer. That's not where they're going first. And so we kind of had to say, hey, we're here. So, 2 of the areas. Correct. So Palmetto Beach and then on Davis Islands, the 2 bigger places that got affected during both the storms. And then we eventually did a South Tampa location too. Yeah. At the Gandy Community Center. And we were there. We were like, hey, just ask your permit questions. We're not here to big brother you. We just want to make sure that you're building back correctly. 2, we're trying to make sure you're not getting scammed, because you'll have contractors and people coming from all over saying that they can fix this stuff. Yeah, I got a permit with the city. If you need to know if you got a permit on this property or not, this is the database right here. We'll tell you exactly where it is in the And so we were trying to really protect people, because at the other end, insurance claims. If these people decide, hey, in 2 years they want to sell this property, insurance is going to say, hey, where's the permit history on this project?
Yeah.
And you go,
like, what?
What permit? What are you talking about? I re-roofed my whole house. I'm like, oh, you need a permit for that. So we were trying to kind of keep people from going to that extreme, but we also understand it's still an emotional time. You have people that this is their forever home. Unfortunately, it may have been built in the 70s right off the river. And they took a massive loss. And then, us working with FEMA as well to figure out where's that line, because, substantial determination, substantial improvement, raising houses, just trying to provide, the citizens as many options as we could. Whichever way you want. Do you want to rebuild? If you rebuild, okay, well, you're in a flood zone now that's been established. The AE, you've got to raise it based off of the level of rehab you're doing to your house. And so those were some very difficult conversations, because you had some people like, listen, just tell me mine is over the determination. I'll just get a demo permit and clear it out. But you had some people like, hey, I want to rebuild. This is my home. I want to stay in Tampa. What do we need to do? You have other people. Some people have means. Other people didn't. But it was just trying to have those conversations over the last year. And now people are finally starting to get those insurance claims and get that insurance money. So now the questions are starting to peak back up. It was literally right when the storms passed through. And now kind of everybody was waiting for that payment. And now it's starting to peak back up again. Because like, hey, I have money. I have money to do this now. Can I do it? Or what can I do? And all that. So we're working with everybody as best we can. But we've gotten general positive reviews because, waiving permit fees and allowing an exemption to allow them to remove a certain amount of drywall before it got too bad. And so that's really helped. So we just wanted to be there as a resource. Like I said, we're not trying to come and hit you with the hammer later. Oh, well, you were doing all this work illegally. It's like, no, I don't want you to do it yet. You got a window of time where you could have got a free permit, and like even now, and we still expedite. So if it comes in and somebody says it was related to storm damage, because we are a part of the emergency response, we have a system where we can just check the address. And we're like, hey, minor, major.
Because you guys went through it.
Yes, so we went block by block, street by street. So we have the whole system set up. We got pictures. And so if somebody says, hey, I need to fix my roof, and we go and see, oh, man, it was related to roof damage, moves over into our accelerated process, and we make sure we get your permits out as soon as we can.
Oh, very cool. I'm curious, when storms like this come through and people choose not to rebuild, or there's areas that are really affected, are there like parts of town where you're like, maybe we shouldn't build here anymore, or like...
Well, like I said, people, it's their property,
Yeah.
and we don't want to tell them no. They know areas obviously that face the bay are a bit more vulnerable, being in velocity zone. So some of where they were, they want to raise, but they can't raise it with fill and with dirt because it'll blow right out.
Yeah.
And so now nobody want to live in a stilt house. And
Yeah.
I'm like, but that's potentially a way that you can raise your So really just trying to work with the neighbors in our floodplain. Another part of ours, which is another benefit as we're going through streamlining permitting, the floodplain manager is in our department as well.
Oh, good.
So
Yeah.
once again, when we see those comments, the flood comments go out with the building comments. So they know what we're looking for, and so we're able to have those conversations. It's like, oh, you can raise it. But then we're having to check with zoning because there's height requirements in neighborhoods, and once again, like all of those pieces that cross, and it's like, oh no. And so, how do we balance all of that? But I'd rather give them all that information up front so they can make an informed decision.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. So, before we start wrapping up, one of the things we started chatting about before we hit record was your professional involvement. So you've been on the board of a couple places, and I imagine especially, in a place that's growing this fast and dealing with all these different challenges that we're talking about today, like having that network was probably super valuable. But can you talk about that?
So I've been on the National Institute of Building Sciences, the NIP board, for the last 3 years. And so that's a network, and that's not just building officials, and so that expands it. We know people that work for 84 Lumber and other green buildings and things like that, so we can kind of pull some resources there. The one that the International Code Council, I'm also a board member as well, and that is the network of building officials. And so if it's a major jurisdiction issue, I know people. Shout out to Grant. I know people in the city of Chicago that I can call. And so when we talk about something as small as energy storage, because everybody electric cars and things like that.
Batteries
I'm not that urban. We have urban areas, but our houses aren't in urban areas. So you can have a storage above ground and somewhere where it's safe. Well, how do you do that in Chicago? How do you do it in a place, or New York? Like, how do you do it in places like that? That it's like, how does that work? And so once again, we can bounce those things off of each other. We talked to some of the people in South Carolina, North Carolina, obviously with their storms and what they dealt with, and it's like, well, your recovery efforts. How did you guys look at the building codes? Once again, it's because we're all talking the same language. For NIBS, I can kind of look at the bigger picture about infrastructure. How do our underground services recover after a storm? Is all that infrastructure good? Is it above ground, below ground? Whether it's a storm on one coast or you're dealing with earthquakes on the other coast. Our lifeline system is like, hey, how do we make sure that stuff stays together? Because if you don't have the grid, doesn't matter what the buildings are. The grid,
exactly.
If you don't have any service. So for us, it's very interesting, and so I like to be, especially on the NIBS board, because I keep telling them I'm the boots on the ground person. I'm the one where all of these statutes, whether it's federal, state, local, I'm the one having to go out there and talk to those individuals and say, oh, you can or can't do that, and at least I have more knowledge of the why, as opposed to just like, this is what the book says. I'm like, no, I have.
This is what the book says.
That's right. And
you could give the background because you have the context.
Correct. So they may not always be happy when they leave me, but at least they have a better understanding of what's going on.
They're better informed.
Yeah, they're better
Nothing
informed.
Else. Oh yeah, no, that's fascinating. And the responding natural disasters piece, like everybody's dealing with that. It's just what's the disaster look like? And like you said, you are at the front line of that in the building code world and the permit issuance world. It's like you may not be there when the storm is rolling through, but you're there the minute it's passed, and you're helping folks rebuild. And so knowing again which part of the code you can be flexible with, and which part is truly you can't.
We had some great stories because once again, I told you Tampa was we hadn't been hit in 40, 50 years with a direct hit. And, some of those things that we used to always push to the home builders, they won't admit it, but they gave us we did get a few calls, and I don't want to put them on the pocket, but we got a few calls from a lot of them. Was like, I didn't understand why you made us do all those things. But now after the storm, our new construction is still there. It didn't fall over into somebody's house.
Feel so good.
And so they were like, their property may have flooded, but because you said it wasn't supposed to be habitable space below the DFE, they just had to go and spray out their garage, and they're back in their house. And so those kind of
that's
things,
what you
it's like,
hear. Yeah,
correct.
that's awesome.
It's like we did our job. It's not, we have to, unfortunately, the building code and our line of work, we have to plan for that worst case scenario.
Yeah.
And the worst case scenario happened twice within 2 days of each other and within 10 days of each other. And those houses, those newer houses, new to the newer flood standards, to the newer building standards, are still standing. So we're like, we, tip of the hat to staff before me, because that was, years before I got here, but still we're consistently doing that. So we could kind of, our recovery was accelerated because we didn't have as much faulty housing that we had to address or deal with.
Yeah. Very cool. That's awesome. So, your mayor, I've read is or heard is on their way out. You're
Yes.
kind of at the last stage of their administration. So what is that like first as a staff member, kind of going through seeing that transition on the horizon, but also like wanting to make sure that you're helping achieve projects and get
Correct.
things done before they're out of office.
So I really appreciate Mayor Castor and her administration, the help that they provided me, and even coming in. I was one of the first new hires when she started the administration. She was like, "We need a new building official." And I'm like,
yeah.
All right,
Me?
Yeah, exactly. So it was like, all right, let's see how this goes, and to have a very good relationship with your mayor, like I think that's probably a very good thing to have.
Yeah.
Like,
especially in your role, because like developers are calling.
That's right.
Them all
And
the
so
time. Yeah.
she'll shoot me a text, "Hey, JC, what's going on with that?"
Yeah.
Or my administrator shoot me a text, "Hey, what's going on with this project?" And I can just pull out my laptop or check my email. I'm like, "Hey, we may have met with them. We got them X, Y, and Z. The project's going forward." And she's at least, she understands enough of the process. It's like, oh, our staff doesn't know what they're doing. No, she knows.
Yeah.
We've got skilled staff. She knows that the truth is somewhere in the middle. We say one thing, she knows the truth is there in the middle. And most times it's just a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And so we're able to work very well together when we do many of the projects. And I want her to keep cutting as many ribbons as she can before she gets out of here. So our intent is to be as efficient as we can to get these projects open and finished. And so working with her administration on some of the Great 8 projects, which are the trying to get those across the line before her administration's up. But like I said, just being there, being a part of the conversation, just to like, I hate I got to raise my hand, guys, but did y'all do, and I'd rather them know, and they push through the project. We get all the way to the end, and we're like, ooh, they missed a utility thing, or they missed that, and we're like, just a note.
Yeah, just one thing.
Just one thing.
Well, that's great. Well, cool. Well, what's next? What are you working on that our listeners ought to look out for over the?
So really, one of our bigger goals is to, once again, just efficiency in our team.
Yeah.
And we love cross training, but just the volume of work is really difficult to cross train. But we're starting to get people that are specialized in certain things, and so we're pushing that. I probably should have held that to talk about the Plan Review AI, because that's really the next big thing for us. This next year is starting to do that internally. Won't be external facing yet, but just start internally. How does that work? Where do we want it to look? How do we address it? It is a large language model, but it'll be our custom large language model. And how do we tweak that to make sure it's giving the answers we need?
Yeah.
So as we continue to move forward through technology, but also understanding there's a digital divide. You have people that don't use this stuff. And how do we reach out to both? So as much as the things we think about digital, I'm still having to do paper handouts and stuff like that. Kind of started to get them into QR codes. They're not, so I'm like, I gotta use my phone to scan.
Yeah.
So still not quite there yet. So, normally when we go to neighborhood meetings, I'll put some presentations up, but still the takeaways. Yeah. Like, hey, if you have a problem and you have a question on permit intake, here's an email, here's a phone number.
Here's someone to
you
talk
can
to.
still call us. You can still reach out to us. We will still sit down and meet with you. So for us, it's really been, how do I keep pushing the technology envelope but still address the digital divide? People that just don't use the systems, and the storm situation. People that never used our permitting system ever because
why would they have? Yeah.
It was their forever home, didn't have any issues.
Yeah.
They may hire a roofer to do some stuff, little minor stuff, or a handyman come in.
Yeah.
But nothing major. Now, you got to replace your roof rafters because you had damage or you had a tree fall on your house. Now you have to come into our permit process. What is this? And I got to go to seller. I got to create a login.
What are all these words?
Yeah, what does this mean? So that was, and that's really where we saw it. We were like, whoa. Yeah. Like, there's a gap here because these people have never used our system.
Yeah.
And now they're coming in as a homeowner because they want to do work on their own house, and you're allowed in the state to do it. And it's like, how can we assist them as well? So that's really where we started to see, like, hey, we've got all this technology. It's nice, but if no one knows how to use it, it doesn't do us.
It doesn't lead to safe building.
That is correct.
Very cool. All right. So hardest question. If you could be the Governor of DJ, what's the song you would pick to be our exit music for this episode? Put you on the spot.
Well, I think I'm going to go back to my first concert, and I'd probably say Kanye, and then we say Good Life.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
That's a good positive upbeat.
Yeah. It gets the party going.
That's right.
It's fitting, in the sunny days here in Tampa. So perfect. Well, that ends our episode for today. JC, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been so fun, and doing it live and in person at the 2025 ICMA Conference in Tampa is awesome. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
For our listeners, GovLove is brought to you by engaging local government leaders, and the best way to support GovLove is to become an ELGL member. You can reach us online at elgl.org/GovLove or give GovLove a follow on LinkedIn. Subscribe to GovLove on your favorite podcast app, and if you already subscribed, go tell a friend or a colleague about this podcast. And you can help us celebrate 10 years of GovLove by giving our hotline a call at 720-282-1752. Tell us about the trends you've seen over the last 10 years and where you think local government might be in another 10 years. With that, thank you for listening. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.
And she got the goods, and she got that ass. I got to look sorry. Yo, it's got to be, cause I'm seasoned. Haters give me them salty looks. Lowry's 50 told me don't hate, switch the style up. And if they hate, then let them hate and watch the money pile up. It's good like, I go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I go for mine, I got to shine. Now throw your hands up in the sky. I'ma get on the TV, mama. I'ma push it down. Welcome to the good life, where we like the girls who ain't on TV, cause they got more ass than the models.